Welcome to another edition of Cooking with Cake. It's been a while since I've had some enchiladas, so tonight we're gonna make some. Ingredients include kale, carrot, tomato, brown rice, lemon, lime, pepper, onion, garlic, enchilada sauce, hot sauce, black beans, red beans, corn, mushrooms, beefless beef tortillas, and some cheese. Onions. Probably too much onion. To help cut down on the massive size of onions, we're just gonna start sauteing it down. Peppers. And the beans. Mushrooms, carrots, diced. The onions have cooked down and completely brown, and time to add some veggies. Beans are done. And we'll just add the corn with the rice. The veggies have cooked down. Tomatoes. And tomatoes. And with the kale. Beefless beef. So the meat was put in the freezer instead of the fridge. Apparently you can't just defrost it on the stove. We're making it work though. We're gonna start off by just laying a brief layer of enchilada sauce. Now we're just gonna throw the torts in. I cooked the enchiladas back in March, but I haven't uploaded the video until almost September because I have this 2-minute span where I have footage that I like, where I'm making the enchiladas themselves, but I don't have anything to fill that silence with. What I've learned from my previous videos is that the absolute worst thing you can do is have silence in your video. That was only 5 seconds, but it felt like 25. It was absolutely awful. Then there's the question of getting music, and I could try to find some publicly available music online, but that sounds like this whole legality issue, and I don't want to go into that. Or try to make my own music with a synthesizer, or just like doo 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 doo, which is almost worse than silence. Okay, it's not worse than silence. Silence is literally the worst thing possible. I could also bring environmental cake back to the forefront and talk about how the Central American recipe calls for ingredients that aren't locally grown in Arkansas, and how the amount of food miles that went into preparing my meal burned a massive amount of petroleum. Or we could talk about climate change, and how as the temperature heats up, the growing season for these crops is getting progressively smaller, so states like California and Arizona that produce most of our agriculture are having some of the worst water problems in the nation. So unless we have a personal garden that we personally are growing our own vegetables in, we might not have access to the crops used in my cooking videos at all. But that sounds like a huge bummer. The obvious solution is to narrate what's happening in the video itself, which is methodically and meticulously painting a tortilla with some enchilada sauce to make sure that it's evenly distributed all over so that when it cooks, the entire tortilla will be crisp and there won't be anything burnt on the outside, but that's pretty self-explanatory by the video itself. What is less self-evident is everything on the stove was still just as hot as it was while cooking, so as I'm dipping my fingers into it, I am burning the ends of my fingers repetitively. But I think that's a sign of a good cook, to both be a little bit plump and to not have any feeling in their fingers. One of the cool things about enchilada sauce is it kind of works like glue. So as I close those tortillas and fold them closed, they keep their shape, and that enchilada keeps that very uniform enchilada shape all the way across. One of the downsides, though, is it sticks to the adjacent tortilla, so that as I'm trying to pull it out to serve, it might cause some rippage and tears, and the tortillas will break, spilling the insides into the pan. But I do think it's really great to keep the shape, and drizzling cheese on top just helps lock it in place. I don't have a recipe, so I'm just assuming 45 minutes is sufficient. Generally while cooking, portion size is hard to control. I do have a ton of vegetables left over, but only a little bit of rice and beans, and I ran out of meat, so I'm getting better. And with 2 minutes remaining, let's see how it turns out. And we're just going to go on, try to stay on the sides of the tortilla to try to keep it whole. And